Good evening, Internet, and we would like to welcome you back to our June episode number 44 of Kent at Your Own Risk with Kent, Kevin, and Chris, where we will be talking or taking on what we are calling the Terrible Twos, or the worst part two in either a series or, I guess, just as an isolated sequel within horror movies. It's been a couple weeks since the last one we've done. I've had an interesting last week with my wife being on vacation and just me and my son. It's actually been probably one of the best vacations I've ever had in terms of just bonding with him. But it's also been a lot of work, so I'm a little stressed. But other than that, I'm doing pretty good. How about you guys?
I'm doing great. Yeah. Happy belated Father's Day to you, Chris. And
Thank you.
Yeah. I've been pretty good. Pretty good week. So I got sick a couple weeks ago, so I definitely put a plug in this. So the extra week was nice. Not that I did anything more with with these lists, but how you doing, Kent?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm all right. Like, I fully intend on taking advantage of having the extra week to do stuff, and my preparation consists of making the spreadsheet and starting watching movies yesterday. So, yeah.
Wow.
Always a slacker. Always.
I really appreciate the extra week, guys, because I initially had thought that my wife was saying we needed to be up at 5 a.m. to leave for the airport. Instead, what she was saying was her plane left at 5 a.m., so I would have basically gone right from the podcast into leaving to drive up to Orlando and back, and then have to be up all day with my son with no sleep. So I wasn't really looking forward to that. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, not a problem. That sounds terrible.
Anyways, yeah, it really would have been, because he is a handful. All right, so who wants to kick it off? Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
All right, Kevin, take it away.
All right. So I'm just gonna get right into it. So for the terrible twos, also I guess my criteria was that it actually has to have the number 2 in the title. So it kind of narrowed it down and probably made this less fun. Number 5, Mimic 2, 2001, written by Joel Soyerson, directed by John de Seonazek. I don't know. This is a bad movie. Though it's kind of so terrible, it's kind of fun to watch. For a direct-to-video release, I respect the effort to try and make the best movie possible with a bad script. The camera work is pretty good, all things considered. This one actually does not follow the story per se of the first, but does actually develop the shape-shifting creature to look more human-like than the first. This movie actually won a Video Premiere Award for Best Special Effects. It's a cliche creature feature with bad acting, mostly, and some exceptions for small character actors like John Polito and Paul Schultz. It has its moments, but it isn't as violent or gory for which the critics panned it for. All that said, I did actually kind of like this for a fun, bad movie at like midnight. So, you guys seen this one? I know you're not a big fan of the creature in the first one, right, Chris?
Yeah, I've never watched the sequels because the first one bothered me so much. So, like, my question is, because I've always wondered this since, I've read about it and I've seen the the trailer and looked at reviews and stuff. Like, how is this bug trying to mate with a woman?
To look like a woman?
No, isn't it like
or try to
want to make trying to mate with her? Like, how the fuck is?
Well, it's not like tentacle banging or anything like that. I don't know. I honestly don't really remember that too much. I guess that it was the point, but it just has more of like this human feature head. Yeah, it wasn't like no possession or nothing like that.
Yeah, okay. I was sensing a theme here for a second.
But yeah, this was I never had any like I don't know. I didn't really want to watch it either. I actually just rewatched the first one. I don't know over the last year just because Guillermo del Toro directed it, and I didn't know who that was back when Mimic came out. So, what about you, Kent?
I've never seen it. I do like the fact that John Polito and Jim O'Hare are both in it. Uh, but and I don't know if either one are strong enough on their own to really convince me to watch this. This feels like a thing that I may do on an October day when I'm like, I need content. Let's just watch the whole Mimic franchise and eat a lot of popcorn and have regrets later. So, I don't know.
Yeah, that might be fun.
How many
That might
are
be
there?
fun,
Is there
actually. Yeah,
just the three?
I think so. There's three for sure on HBO. I believe that's where I saw this. So, um, yeah. All right. So on to Terrible 2, number 4, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer 2, Mask of Sanity,
I'm so happy you brought this up.
1998. Oh, written and directed by Chuck Parolo. Um, yes. So this movie should be called Henry 2, The Arsonist Apprentice. This movie is actually okay in a made-for-TV kind of way. It's very boring, and that's worse, in my opinion, than being bad. Most of the cameras are off camera or edited in the middle of. There's a couple of exceptions to it. Nothing like the first. This movie would serve better as a standalone film and not considered a sequel. Just not Henry, just some weirdo in a from the soup kitchen to someone's couch. Or Kate Walsh before Grey's Anatomy has probably the best performance in this. It has a missed opportunity of I think it missed the opportunity of Henry taking acid at the party. Uh, it would have been, I don't know. I feel like there was something a little bit more to that. He, gets drugged, and I don't know, like the way he freaks out, it wasn't to what I was hoping was going to happen. Yeah, so it kind of got less climactic for me. It doesn't go as wild as it sets itself up to be. I still kind of liked it though for a terrible movie. It was fun to watch for this criteria. Anyways, the expectations were low going in because I was like, this is going to go on my terrible list. Anyways, yeah, I think basically because I was sick that week, I just said, you know what, like whether judging these movies if they're terrible or not, if they're like in some sort of way thought of terrible, and unless they really surprised me, like this was going on the list no matter what. So Henry 2, Mask of Sanity. What do you guys think?
I didn't even know there was one.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the thing. Okay, first of all, most people don't even know that the first Henry movie exists. But it's become a little bit more popular as Michael Rooker gained more popularity. But even like most horror fans don't even know this fucking movie exists. And it's funny because I was just talking to Raylene about it. I'm like, you've never seen this? She's like, I didn't know it existed. I'm like, well, there we go. I haven't seen it either. Is it streaming somewhere?
Peacock, I believe.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Every time I've looked this movie up, it looked like shit, and it didn't have Rooker, so I didn't care enough to really spend time doing it. Is it worth a watch?
Yeah. Yeah, it totally is. I mean, it's it's absolutely worth a watch. I mean, but you get in this like fun way of like we're gonna watch a bad movie now. You know, you got to be in that zone. Yeah, I don't regret watching it. I thought it was a pretty good pick, but also another straight to DVD movie. So, um, and I don't know. And I mean, the first one had to have been successful enough in some way to make a sequel. Um, and I think it's by the same guy who did the first one. I think. I could be wrong.
I mean, the first one really did make a good impact, considering like when it came out. So I don't did it. I don't even remember the first one now. Did Henry survive in the first one?
I don't really remember the ending too much either. But yeah, I think he did. I think he did survive. I don't think he died. I think he ended up killing his buddy there.
Okay.
And
All right. So yeah. All right. I don't know. I guess this is definitely something I do need to check out because it just looks terrible. It really does.
kind of refused to watch like the first ones going into this because I was like, well, I don't want to like totally ruin my time. Like, so, but also picked movies that I did see, so I was kind of limited in that regard also.
That was actually a major problem for the research of this. I was gaming with Eric, and I was just like, fuck Kevin. He chose a stupid thing that's going to require me to watch the original movie, then the second one, just so I can compare and contrast. I'm like, now I'm doubling down on my wasting of time. So I just completely held you in contempt.
Just a heads up, the guy who did it was not the guy who did the original.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Fair enough. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, but also, Kent, this was just kind of like, I just shaped your idea. So just to put the loathing right back to you.
Excellent.
Contain that contempt. But, okay. So we can move on?
Yeah, go ahead.
From Henry. All right. So moving on from Henry, this is my number 3, The Rage, Carrie 2, 1999, directed by Kat Shea, and written by Raphael Mario. Now, I actually really did like this movie. I think it had a lot of good things to it up until the ending or leading up to the ending. Like even some of the bad dialogue is fun. For the horror going on, there isn't much, but some technosis, I can't say it, telekinesis, technosis, parlor tricks. Yeah, so telekinesis parlor tricks. The worst from this movie is how it even like ties into the first movie, because I feel like it would have, even though it had direct correlations and be considered a ripoff, I feel like calling it a sequel hurt it even more than like a ripoff coming of age story of a high school girl.
They could have just said spiritual successor, and I think it would have gotten less hate.
Yeah, I think it would have. Yeah, I think it would have gotten less hate too. This, I guess, it was originally called The Cursed before production. So I wonder if it was meant to even be a sequel or was kind of just a spiritual sequel or whatever. But even though this is a bad movie because it is, and that's why it's on the list, is because as a sequel it is kind of it's terrible, but not as bad, I guess, as it could be. But it kind of it's like a special time, like the late '90s, where like it's got the hippos on the soundtrack, the just like the music and the vibe. I had like nostalgic vibes to it, so it was kind of fun. And the Glass House party scene massacre was awesome. But as a film, it falls apart before that scene and right after. So it seems it was heading towards like a Romeo and Juliet thing that it talked about in the beginning of the movie, but it kind of failed at that too. So Yeah. But all in all, this one is definitely worth watching if you want to watch some bad sequels or like fun '90s movies. And it's got that, and it's at that time of like special effects where it's like where it's impressive for the time, and like even where it's kind of like dated and cheesy, it's kind of fun. So, um, yeah, The Rage, Carrie 2. What do you guys think?
This one almost seemed too easy to put it on the list. I mean, it was like that was a softball right there.
Oh yeah. Well, I wanted to do a movie that wasn't straight to video. This actually had a theatrical release. I was like, it's not even fair if you're just doing all straight to video releases. So I wanted to change it up because there's at least one more on the list.
So, we just watched this yesterday. I watched this once when it first came out on video. I watched it a second time for one of my early year of horror blogs, and so the third time was yesterday. And I was looking at my write up of it, and basically it's like all the first whatever percentage of the film is shit. You get to the party scene. The party scene's relatively well done, gives you a little hope, and then it ends completely shitty. The casting was terrible. The connecting to Carrie in any way, like Sue Snell, like that's your connecting thread. Come the fuck on. And I didn't really like the main girl. She just didn't fit anything for me. Like I didn't find her likable in any way. I just wasn't feeling it. And one other thing that really bothers me as I'm watching all these stupid ass movies, like, what high school did these writers go to? Because I swear, all these movies that have like high school kids, like, guys are like the most irredeemable fucks in the world, like doing like the worst of the worst things. I'm like, what? Where do these people exist? Because I don't know. Growing up, I didn't know people that were like allotting points to nailing bitches. I don't know. It seems really fucking off.
Well, it does seem like that's something that the oldest brother in Home Improvement would do. So I feel like it's legit.
Yeah, I really was missing Tim Allen. Like, couldn't they have threw some money at him to be the dad? I don't know. And the guy that was supposed to be like the hunk, like the jock hunk, I don't know. He just looked like a fucking jackass.
The only thing I ever liked him in was fucking Mallrats.
Yeah, and that's the same one, right? Jason London was in Mallrats because he has a brother Jeremy who.
Yeah.
And Jeremy was the one who did Dazed and Confused and.
Also, a waste of Mina Suvari. I mean, she's not a great actress, but she's a known quantity, and I wanted to know her quantity more in this movie, and they offed her too quickly.
I don't think she wasn't a star, though. This came out the same year as American Beauty, and that's the movie that really catapulted her. Not this movie.
I mean,
this is how you make her into a star, is by giving her a bigger role in a really shitty movie that people are still going to pay money to see, like idiots.
Yeah, like catapult her into a windshield. That was one of the better parts of the movie, I thought.
It really was.
I mean, I'd say American Pie was probably the first thing she really showed up on.
Yeah.
And that was the same year as well.
American Pie, starring Eddie K. Thomas, who's also in this movie.
It was a magical time. Was Chris Klein in this? You would all be like, this movie was pretty good. It's one of Chris Klein's better movies outside of the American Pie movies.
He's been in some decent stuff. It's never been him being the decent thing in those decent things. Like, Election. Jesus Christ. Yes. That was a fucking uncomfortable movie.
Yeah, that was really good. Alexander Payne, I believe, directed that. I saw that on Criterion. It was one of the
Yeah.
few MTV movies that was on Criterion. The Reese Witherspoon movie, right?
Yeah, really made me feel uncomfortable for Matthew Broderick through like the entire fucking thing.
Do stuff like that before or after, I believe.
Anyways, what's your next one, Kevin?
Okay. So speaking of softballs, number 2 is Paranormal Activity 2, 2010, directed by Todd Williams, written by Michael R. Perry, Christopher Landon, and Tom Pabst. I do not know why it takes 3 writers to have nothing going on in this movie. The home videos are like dreams. If I'm not in them or no one is having sex, I'm really not interested. So the only thing that really creeped me out about this movie was how I felt about myself while you're watching a teenage girl sleep on a couch for 5 minutes with nothing going on. I remember trying to watch this movie like 10 years ago, and I don't think I made it all the way through the second one. I watched the first one, and then I tried to watch the second one like right after, and it was just too much to do. I was like trying to play catch up on things I didn't have interest in. There's not a whole lot going on in this movie. I mean, besides these white people trying to get their Mexican housekeeper to clear out the spirits in their house, which I thought was pretty weird. The Paranormal Activity 2, softball number 2. Your direction, Chris. What'd you think?
My wife really liked the Paranormal Activity movies. I thought the first one was unique. This one, yeah, it was kind of underwhelming. Like, basically, you have maybe one good scene in the entire movie, and even then, it's not great. But just at the ending, the third one wasn't too bad, and then it started.
The third one was the best one by far.
And then it started was it the fourth one and then the marked ones? Or was the marked ones the fourth one?
It goes part 4, then it goes marked ones, and then there's a 6th one now.
Oh, I haven't seen the 6th one. Yeah, so I mean, it was. The worst thing I can say for Paranormal Activity 2 is that it was successful enough to go along with the first one that it really prolonged the found fucking footage genre for, 4 or 5 years solid. Like, that was almost the only horror that we were getting.
Yeah. They were like, that's what they would fund because it was cheap and profitable if it was a success.
And I've seen some really good found footage movies. I don't know how you classify like Wreck, but
I think that's
amazing.
Well, would you classify that as a found footage movie? But
technically, maybe, but I don't.
There are some amazing ones out there.
I haven't seen Wreck.
Yeah.
Is that Spanish?
They did an English version too, which it's pretty good, but it's nowhere near as good as the original.
Yeah, Wreck is Quarantine.
Yeah.
But Quarantine 2, which I'm not trying to spoil anybody's list, the English version is nothing like the original version, because the original version takes place at the same building, whereas the English version just goes to a fucking airport for some fucking reason.
I seen Quarantine. I was going to watch Wreck 2 for this, but I just I don't know. It's hard to... I felt bad judging a movie without seeing the first one. Even though I kind of did that with Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, you should watch Wreck 1 and 2, Kevin. I think those Wreck... I don't remember if it was 3 or 4. I think 3 I didn't really like, but 4 I liked. 4 is on board a big party ship or some shit. Cool. It's not bad, actually.
All right. And actually, I will say Paranormal Activity 2, as I watched Paranormal Activity 1 10 years ago, it wasn't as bad as I was expecting. It was actually, I think maybe I just have more patience now, but...
I I want to offer this because I just looked at this today when I did my review, and apparently I watched this with Raylene, and I have this quote, Raylene saying to me, "What's supposed to happen here?" and me responding, "I get more bored than I currently am." So, if that doesn't sum up Paranormal Activity 2,
that should be on the cover. What is it? What did she say?
So I thought like the evil entity could possibly be Abalam, the same entity from The Last Exorcism. So I don't know if I'm correct or not, but to me that was just a much better theory than anything else I was getting from that damn movie.
It was on the brain activity going on in that, because I didn't have that going on at all. Yes,
I try to entertain myself.
If the movie isn't, I agree. So we're to number 1 of my list. All right, Hollow Man 2, 2006, directed by Claudio Fa, screenplay by Joel Soasin, who did Mimic 2. I think I just put that together right now. Yeah. I feel like this isn't even fair anymore. This is straight to DVD. Story by Gary Scott Thompson. I'm guessing he probably wrote the original. So, this one I really didn't write a lot for. I didn't actually watch it again. I saw this during October for the first time. Last October. This movie, it wasn't free on streaming anywhere, and I was like not going to rent it because I remember it was so bad. It takes two things that I love, the original Hollow Man and Christian Slater, and just destroys it. And this is like one of the reasons why it was so hard being like a Christian, like diehard Christian Slater fan during this time, because he made these really bad direct to video movies, and he's not even like really trying as an actor. Like if he made some movies with like Emilio Estevez at this time, and he's like really trying but these are just like straight up paycheck movies. Christian Slater is my favorite. Like,
so what you're saying is it isn't on the level of like Cuffs or Gleaming the Cube. It's more along the lines of
Hard Cash. Which actually is not bad compared to this. Alone in the Dark is really bad. Like really bad. Like it's really bad. Not like it's fun bad. And that also has Stephen Dorff in it, who I'm like, Christian, who I also really like and has done really good work. And also has done really bad movies like Alone in the Dark.
Oh, dude, you just gave me an idea for a podcast. It's going to be so horrible though. But the worst U-Bowl movies.
Dude, that's like just U-Bowl movies. Let's see. We can
like the whole list.
Yeah, we can just do.
Yeah, you didn't need the word worst.
Yeah, but which is worse, House of the Dead or the one about the Farewell to the King or whatever with Jason Statham?
Oh, well, you did a movie with Jason Statham? Is it really that? Is it Alone in the Dark bad?
It's worse, I think, because it's like almost like a take on like Lord of the Rings kind of, because it was based on a Dungeon Quest video game, but like the special effects for like the orcs are fucking horrible. In the Name of the King, that was what it was called.
Yeah, and let's not forget Blood Rain.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
I was gonna do Alone in the Dark 2, but I was like, I'm just gonna do Hollow Man 2 and just not watch either of them. Yeah, U-Bowl. I haven't seen House of the Dead. Is it really that bad? It's directed by U-Bowl, which of course is.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's it. You guys see Hollow Man 2?
I never did, but seeing it's a movie that you're talking shit about Christian Slater in, who I really like, and that Peter Facinelli is the fucking hero, that tells you a lot right there.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. I haven't seen the first one either, so I'm double.
Man, you should check out. You should check it out. The director's cut is on HBO. I highly recommend that one.
Am I the only one that finds it weird now that it's not even HBO
yeah.
anymore? It's just called Max. Like, or during our whole like teenage years and our young adult life, like Cinemax was always second rate to HBO, and now we're at a point where HBO's not even in the title of the app anymore. I find that weird.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be based on Cinemax, but that's what I think of when
the Max original. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it is based on Cinemax.
We're the Max, ooh, because it just rolled out from HBO Max, but I guess Discovery or whatever didn't want to be like, oh, HBO Max Discovery, let's just, nobody will play second fiddle. We'll just call it Max.
And aren't they all just owned by Warner Brothers? So why not just call it WB?
Because Discovery bought Warner Brothers.
That changes
so
everything. But originally, it was just known as the Warner Brothers app, and they used HBO to get subscribers. Because I had HBO through Amazon, and then I didn't get HBO Max for like the first 3 or 4 months, until they basically said, canceled our HBO account and said, you have to go get HBO Max. So, because Amazon didn't do it anymore. And then they like offered like half off for 6 months, and then you pay full price for like 2 months. And then they were like, we'll give you another 6 months half off. So that kind of worked out.
Yeah, it was complicated as fuck. At one point they had HBO, HBO Now, and HBO Go, and they were all separate things. And then when they did the whole, they canceled all of those and rolled them into HBO Max, and then Discovery bought HBO Max, and I guess they spent like over a year trying to brainstorm what they were going to call it, and this is what they came out with. So yes, like HBO still has a lot of cred, and the fact that they don't call it that.
They used it to get it started with, so like that's why it's weird that it like took off the way it did. Yeah, I think I'm always going to call it HBO Max just because that's what it is. Or I'm just going to just say HBO and like not even mention the Max. Because, I mean, that's the reason I have it. All right. So.
All right. So, you want me to go next, Kent?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So, this list could have been like fucking 65 movies, 100 movies long. No, maybe not that much, because it's harder to find sequels or twos in the series.
Probably about 50 long. But
there were a lot of them that like were on lists that I hadn't seen, and then there were a lot of them that were just mid. I know there are ones that I'm not thinking of that would have, like, one of the things that really offended me about horror movies in the 80s, and Full Moon did this a lot with a lot of their series, is where you have like a decent or even a good first movie, and then you completely undo everything that happened in the first movie within like the first 2 to 3 minutes of the second movie so you can have a sequel. I'm thinking of like something like Subspecies 2, where somehow the bad guy who got killed in the first one gets brought back to life, kills the main hero from the first one, and undoes, the entire 2-hour movie that you had spent watching beforehand. That doesn't seem to happen as much anymore, but I kind of remember that being like a big thing in like lower budget horror movies in the 80s. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm just misremembering it.
No, you're right on point.
So like one of the things that I appreciate in a good sequel is something that continues to grow the franchise, doesn't walk it back, and doesn't radically deviate from what the first movie was, without continuing to deviate in subsequent entries. Like if they had done Halloween and then Halloween 3 was the second one, that might have created an interesting, tone for the series. But doing Halloween 1, 2, and then having 3 stand out there by itself, kind of, it's like, what the fuck is this shit? But anyways, to hit my number 5 for that, we go to Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. I really liked the first Blair Witch. I liked the reboot, remakequel, whatever the hell you want to call it. It wasn't great, but yeah, I didn't think it was bad. But like, Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, I was like, what the fuck is this even? You know, it wasn't a found footage movie, which, you know, hadn't been over proliferated at the time. It really didn't deal with like the Blair Witch at all, who, you know, like the fake history that they created for the first one was like probably the most interesting part of it. And then like the plot just doesn't really go anywhere, doesn't make sense. There were some decent actors and actresses in it, but like none of the performances were good. It was just fucking disappointing.
I mean,
I'm assuming you both have seen it. I know you've seen it, Ken. I'm assuming you've seen it too, Kevin, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say it's like one of the worst movies. I mean, I've definitely seen worse horror movies, but I just think it's disappointing and like out of left field for the direction that it chose to go.
I'm super happy that you picked this one, because this is another movie. This is actually the movie that we watched right after The Rage Carrie 2. And here's the thing. This was a movie I almost considered having on both of my lists, because it's so terrible, but there is a part of it that's fucking brilliant. I love the fact that there is like two realities going at the same time, and I think if they would have been slightly more clever with it and had better actors. They really didn't have good actors. None of them were that good. Maybe they could have pulled off what they were really going for, because there was I still think there was a good idea, but it was terribly pulled off. And alright, as a big fan of the original, I knew they couldn't redo, like, nobody wanted people just to go do another found footage like that. Like, you had to do something different, and they did. They tried something different, and it almost landed, but they didn't have the talent to nail it.
And
that's just truth.
I mean, I really enjoyed Jeffrey Donovan and Burn Notice, you know, years later, but I think he definitely needed time to mature as an actor, and somebody who, you know, could call him on his fucking overacting.
Absolutely.
And yeah, this one feels like it was probably a script problem. Like I could see this kind of working as like a divorce it from like Blair Witch. I could see like this working as like a Stephen King short story in an anthology book. But you know, it isn't divorced. It's, you know, a part of a mythology that now has to deal with this shitty fucking turd floating in the middle of the toilet.
And Kurt Loder.
Oh, yeah.
I think he was just on MTV.
I don't remember
Jeffrey
Donovan in it, but he was really good in Fargo season 2. Yeah, he was really good in that. Like, that's what I think of when I think of him.
Yeah, he can play a really fucking creepy guy, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, don't know anyone else besides Kurt Loder, I think, in this cast of characters. So I watched it on Vudu on my phone when I was doing overnights at my work, and I would like sleep on the couch and watch movies on my phone and with commercials, and it was kind of new to me at the time to have that. So I remember seeing Blair Witch 2, and I was like, oh, I'll watch this because I'll fall asleep during it. And I ended up watching the whole thing, and in that, it is a terrible movie, but I actually thought it wasn't as bad as the expectation I had for it. I was thinking that I was gonna, like, you know, I don't know. I was like, you know what? It was almost okay, but it was still like a bad movie. But yeah, that's all I really remember from it, and it crossed my mind to revisit it again, and decided that maybe if I didn't think it was that bad, I would have to watch another terrible movie. So, I was like, or have to maybe start watching the originals to, I didn't want to do like the not to get into other people's list, but like the big franchises, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, for either terrific or terrible. But yeah, Blair Witch 2, I think it's a good choice. And what a double feature, Kent. What a double feature. Carrie 2 and Blair Witch 2. Which one was first?
I have to ask, what the... What?
Oh.
Carrie, then Book of Shadows, and
Okay.
I haven't quite even got into what happened today, so we'll get there. It's not pleasant. But one other thing about this movie, why did they cast that Lanny Flaherty as the sheriff? The sheriff role, it just sticks out like a sore thumb compared to everything else going on in the movie. He seems so cartoonish in a way. Am I wrong in saying that?
No. I mean, it's I don't know. It's weird. It's just also one of those ones where the director casts
himself. It saves costs, and you can also write yourself another paycheck.
Yeah, as a tourist.
That's the way to do it, man. Absolutely.
All right, so moving on. My number 4. My list isn't necessarily in any particular order. I just kind of wrote them down, but I think pretty much all 5 of them could pop into any one of the top 5 spots. My number 4 is Tremors 2 Aftershocks. I love Tremors. I think it's just a really well done, for the time, indie movie. I love the relationship between Fred Ward and Kevin Bacon. And when Kevin Bacon couldn't come back for that, they moved Michael Gross up to supporting. Well, not even supporting, but, one of the main characters. And as much as I liked his character in the first one, I think he worked because it was him and Reba together. And not being together, he just isn't able to fulfill the Kevin Bacon spot. The special effects aren't anywhere near as good, and the change to the creatures where they become like little fucking Yoshi kind of looking things that can hear. If I remember correctly, it was have acute hearing. Yeah, I don't know. It's fucking stupid. Did you guys see it?
I can't add anything because I think
kind
I've
of the
seen
same
it
way,
a long time ago, but it's all
so I don't really remember it. I
distant
do
memory.
remember Kevin Bacon wasn't in it. I saw this probably, so it's 1996, so I saw it in 97 most likely, and was already not into it because Kevin Bacon didn't come back. This was one of my, I create a little list of potentials, and this was on there. And I was kind of afraid that also I might actually like it too much to not put it on the terrible list. And also it was another direct to video movie, so I was trying to avoid all 5 of my movies being like that. So, but everything you said, Chris, sounds exactly how I remember it. And the Reba thing really made the first one with Michael Gross's character. But I like Michael Gross a lot more than I did then. And it's weird because he ended up kind of carrying this entire series of seven movies. He's in almost all of them. Yeah. Yeah. So, and I know that this movie was
he ended up becoming a
movie that didn't do well at the original didn't do well at the box office, but it did so well on home video that they were going to make another one. And I saw an interview with Kevin Bacon, and he didn't understand, because home video was very new at the time, that you could have hits in video stores, or what that even meant, because if it didn't do well at the box office, he was like, well, if that didn't work, why would I do a second one? And the thing is that, like, I had no idea what the box office was like for that movie. That was a hit movie to me as a kid. Um, and so good. And I couldn't imagine this living up to it. But I mean, I guess it wasn't so bad, or it was so bad that they wanted to give it another go. But uh, have you gone further into the series?
Yeah, no, like you said, I mean, it's the epitome of. I think I watched up to 3, and at that point, I was like, okay, this is.
I'm interested.
Yeah. Not good. I could see them doing. I could see.
Yeah, and if the special
that being
effects
a
were right,
successful reboot. If they
I would
got
hate
the
to
right
see it CGI though,
writer
to
to
tell you
do
the
it.
truth. And I feel like that's what they would do. But I mean, it still could be good, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Something about the way the creatures were through the dirt, and I don't know. I would say the prosthetics, or whatever that thing is, the creature that they did. Yeah, that was. Yeah. That was it's a really good movie.
Really
I
good
should
design. I mean,
probably
just
own the
interesting,
first Tremors, at
prehistoric
least.
fucking thing that's just been
I think
living
it's an
under the
American
ground.
classic. That sounds familiar.
Sliders
That's the
actually
Jerry
did an
O'Connell
episode that was
show, right?
very loosely based off of Tremors.
John Rhys
Interesting.
Davies, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love Sliders when it was on TV, but it was hard to catch it. Season 2, they
And John
switched the
Rhys
times. It
Davies,
was really
yeah.
hard to follow.
Yeah, the show bombed because Fox couldn't fucking keep it on.
They put it on
night,
Sunday
even
nights?
though it had a loyal
They
fan
put it on
base.
Sunday nights
And
originally.
Then it got shuttled off to freaking Sci-Fi,
Oh.
and that's a sad tale.
Yeah. They did that with Arrested Development, and it killed it. They
don't
took
even-
Arrested Development,
I
took
think
it off
ended
Sunday
up on, like,
nights,
4
which
or
was
5
great
different
because I worked
nights,
at the
like, when all
mall
was said and done.
for the most part at
So,
that in those 3 years.
Yeah.
And I'd be out by 6 o'clock. The mall would close, so I'd be home by 6:30, 7 o'clock, and be able to watch The Simpsons. So, and then Arrested Development, and then they put it up against Two and a Half Men, which was Charlie Sheen was still on at the time and was a monster hit, and destroyed it. But maybe it needed to be, because when they brought it back to Netflix, it's not very good. But yeah, Fox.
Oh well. All right, moving on. My number 3 is I'm sensing a theme because I'm looking, and most of these are from within a couple of years of each other. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Like, the first one wasn't great, but it was a decent, probably one of the better initial Scream copies that came out right after that. This one was just fucking trash. The script is fucking horrible. There's plot twists everywhere. It's not anywhere near as violent or as creative with the kills. I don't know. This is probably the highest. Well, yeah, probably the highest budget out of the ones I picked, and I still think this is just garbage. They separate, most of the cast throughout the whole movie. The twists are like horribly fucking telegraphed, and even like the cameos that they get, like Jeffrey Combs, Bill Cobbs, just doesn't fucking work.
I remember the first one.
I mean, I know you guys have
agree,
seen this
it
one
really
too,
wasn't
so
that it wasn't that bad for. I mean, it wasn't. It was bad compared to Scream, I guess, or it wasn't nearly as good. So I would think it was bad at the time. But I did like Ryan Phillippe and Sarah Michelle Gellar a lot in the first one, and remember kind of not liking, or the rest of the movie was just kind of the rest of the movie to me at that point. And this one, I feel like I would have been. I didn't really want to go into the sequel because they didn't have those characters. Wasn't a big Jennifer Love Hewitt fan or a Freddie Prinze Jr. fan. Brandy was in it, so I could care less. But yeah, I should probably check this out. John Hawkes and Mark Boone Jr., Jeffrey Combs are in it. Jennifer Esposito. Oh yeah,
I mean, one of the big things you can see is they got different writers.
like
Yeah,
Scream
so the
3.
first one at least had Kevin
But I
Williamson writing
digress.
for it, and you can feel the difference without him being in part of this.
Awesome.
Yes.
I actually had this considered as one of my best sequels. So, I specifically saw this on December 24th of whatever fucking year, 98. I saw it Christmas Eve at night with my other buddy Chris, and it was okay. I mean, we got to hear the stupid karaoke. We got Whitesnake. That was the important thing. Was Whitesnake. And there's a long story that goes along with it, but after the movie, we take a ride up to fucking Wells, and you guys know, it's Wells. There's just nothing going on. It's fucking Christmas Eve. Don't know what the fuck we're doing. We're on this secluded road, which basically is all of Wells, and we're listening to the Sienna radio station, which is fucking hip-hop. I don't know why we're listening to it, but we are. And then they play Whitesnake. Here I go again. And I look around, and it is like the scene that we just saw in the movie is playing out in real life. It was magical. So maybe my view is a little distorted because I got to hear Whitesnake twice in the same night. I don't know. But I have fond memories. And yeah, I know the cast sucks comparatively. Brandy can't act worth a shit. Mekhi Phifer, he's okay. Freddie Prinze Jr., God, he's just a fucking idiot that just talks about wrestling nowadays. So I get
Nostalgia
it.
will do that.
Whatever, but I don't know. I have fond memories, so I'm not going badmouth it as much as
Yeah.
I normally would.
Have you guys
Oh, is it?
ever seen
Is it
Club Dread?
Yes.
Is it like a resort movie?
Kevin?
Oh.
That's just like a better version of this fucking movie. It's a better horror movie as a comedy than this movie.
Yeah. Because you wouldn't smoke any weed with me.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
or you
Club
said
Dread
you
is like a
didn't have
fucking
any weed, but
parody
you
of
did.
this,
Yeah,
and they did a better job.
that part of the movie fucking killed me.
Good job, Broken Lizard.
In Club Dread, I was like, this is like the best horror film, thriller, whatever. It's great. I mean, yeah, I was just, no one ever did anything like that before. Yeah. Yes, Club Dread is a good movie. Oh yeah, I want to check this out. This was a possible, but it was not on anything streaming, so I didn't do it. I remember my girlfriend actually, when I said about when we did the underrated or overrated movies, her pick for an overrated movie was I Know What You Did Last Summer. But then I was like, I liked Ryan Phillippe as an asshole in that movie. But all right, I'm done.
All right, my number two, funnily enough, is, I think, the only movie. Well, I guess that one didn't either. One of the two. Okay, my number two is one of the two movies I picked that does not have a 2 in the title. But this would be Aliens vs. Predator Requiem. So yeah, I love the Aliens movies for the most part. I love the Predators movies for the most part. Aliens vs. Predator was not, I think, what everybody was expecting, but it was a decent Paul W.S. Anderson movie. I mean, if that was a genre, it would fit right in there. And then Alien vs. Predator Requiem came out, and we're like, oh, wow, they upped it to an R. Let's see what they do. And they made the movie so fucking dark that it's hard to see in 90% of the scenes. They did some really fucking creepy shit with the Predalien, shoving his fucking proboscis down pregnant women's fucking throats in a very phallic fucking manner. They had some decent special effects, but again, a lot of it was hard to see because of how dark it was. I knew it was going to be a fucking joke when I saw the hunters shoot the facehugger at the beginning, and the acid splashed the dad, and the fake arm that they have fall off from the acid splash is quite literally able to be seen to be a mannequin arm. The cast sucked. The script sucked. I don't know what else to say. Like, potentially we could have had a really,
I don't really remember. I remember liking
cool
Alien vs.
movie.
Predator
Instead, we ended
Requiem
up with
better than Alien vs.
like
Predator.
something taking a shit on two of my favorite.
But the best part of Alien vs. Predator is the very end where it alludes to Requiem, I think, as I remember, right? Like, at the end of it. Yeah, so, but then you describe the whole tentacle pregnant woman thing.
Yeah,
I was
like,
like, oh
the
yeah,
very end,
yeah,
you
that's
see
probably
the Predalien
why I
popping out of the Predator's
thought, like,
chest.
keep this in a better light than the original. I didn't read the first Alien vs. Predator was PG-13. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's probably
all
why
the teenagers and stuff.
like,
And yeah,
so
and
much of it was shit
definitely
because they
long awaited.
They had to compromise
And I think
on the
they
violence in
waited a
order to
little
be able to
too
get the rating
long
that they
for it.
wanted
Well,
to be able to try to get as many
to deliver
people in to see it
what
as
they
they could.
delivered,
Yeah.
anyways. So, um,
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that AVP had going for it was the script was okay, and they had good actors. Like anything with Lance Henriksen in it, probably is going to get like at least a 1 point bump from me, just because it's Lance Henriksen. Yeah. Kent?
Yeah, alright, so I'm just going to read my synopsis. This kind of will really explain some things about how I feel about this movie. And I quote, "That was not a very good movie. Sorry, it just didn't work for me. The setting just didn't do this film any favors. What made Alien, Aliens, Predator, and AVP work on a horror level? It was the setting, the feeling of claustrophobia. This was too wide open. Too many characters, and you didn't care about a single one if you think about it. Who'd you really care about? The Predator. That is it. If that is going to be your main protagonist, then why not do the film on the Predator ship? Do you mean to tell me that you would miss any of the human characters when you could have just had a green bloodbath? Who cares about dialogue? At the end, you could have had the aliens overrun the ship and the elder Predator sacrifice with the explosive, while 4 Predators escape with an alien on board. The alien could cause them to crash to Earth. They get out and have it out with the badass Predalien, and 1 Predator dies, and the others kill the alien in some badass combo, and the Predators miss the dropped artifact or whatever, and then you can have the humans discover it and start the company. There. I just made an extremely fun, mindless film. Instead, we have this."
I agree.
Yeah.
the worst part of the first movie, and I remember when I watched it the first time now, thinking, I don't like any of the humans in this movie, like any of them at all, and it would be so much better without them, or if they were like not actual characters and just prey. But yeah, anyways.
So many movies get ruined with fucking, oh, we need to throw humans. I mean, think of, like, I haven't seen the new one yet, but I'm hearing the same thing, like all the Transformer movies. You know, like, let's focus on the fucking humans for an hour and 45 minutes out of the 2-hour fucking movie instead of showing, like, robots fucking kicking ass.
Yeah, it missed the mark in so many ways.
Like,
To the point that they haven't even revisited the idea. Like, Aliens versus Predator is a great idea, but they've missed the mark 2 times in a row. And at this point, you got to have somebody that actually has some freaking history with it.
I mean, have you guys ever read any of the comic books?
No,
Nay.
I don't think so.
Like, the whole premise out of the original Aliens versus Predator comic books was a human gets rescued by the predators, and then she goes with them hunting aliens. So, hey, guess what? Like, that would have fucking made such a more fucking interesting story than either of the fucking things we got. And it's science fiction, you know, in the future, you know, Weyland-Yutani timeline. So it's not like we're sitting around, you know, 1986, 1990, whatever, trying to shoot them with fucking, you know, AKs or whatever. You've got, like, spaceships, other planets, you know, so it really spreads the mythology and goes, you know, in depth into the predators. You've got an interesting character to be the relatable person for humanity, and then you're seeing, you know, aliens like we haven't ever seen them before. Instead, we just get more of the fucking same, more of the same. So I don't know. Yeah, like as you said, this premise, you know, almost said as many people clamoring for it as they were for Freddy vs. Jason, and this shows you why we don't get more of them.
Yeah, you put fucking idiots in charge that don't have a passion for the fucking stuff.
It was a cash grab for merchandise, you know?
There you
like,
go.
How can we get merchandise? Like, and they created a whole bunch of toys. I worked at Spencer's at that time, and actually the pregnant predator, was that it? The thing with the alien thing? Yeah, that was pretty cool. Like, the toys were, like, cooler than the movie, and it would just be so disappointing when I'd see them, because I'd be like, this is so cool, like, why can't the movie, like, capture this? So, yeah, I would do a whole movie with no dialogue at all, just, like, alien screams and, you know, maybe some subtitles for whatever the Predator's saying. But, anyways. Probably talked too long about this movie. I'll shut up.
Yeah, we spent more time on it than we should have. And then my number one, and like I said, this is not necessarily in any order, but was Jeepers Creepers 2. I really liked the first one. I thought it was a unique premise and take. I liked the characters that we got in it. The creeper was interesting. You know, I liked the mythology around it. And then this one just kind of set the bar for everything going downhill and getting worse and worse and worse from that point on. Like the trying to tie the movie to the first one by having, like, Justin Long show up in, like, dream sequences to the psychic girl was fucking stupid. You know, you can do a good, like, small setting movie and get away with it. I mean, shit, 12 Angry Men is considered one of the best movies ever made, but, you know, having a bunch of shitty actors caught on a bus, you know, it is really more just showing, like, how they had no budget for this compared to the first one. And then, like, a good portion of what worked with the first one's creepiness was, you started out with the relatively low-key horror of the beginning, seeming like a duel, in the daylight, and then by the time night falls, that's when you start getting the supernatural shit. Like, a good portion of this is just fucking filmed in the daylight and loses a lot of the effectiveness. And then, like the football dude running away and the creeper chasing him at the end. Like, it was, I don't know. It was one of my favorite new franchises to being like one of my least favorite franchises ever. And it only gets worse from here.
I've never seen it. I think I've seen the first Jeepers Creepers and thinking that it was way better than I thought it was going to be. I do like Justin Long, so he's back for the second one.
He died at the end of the first one, and like they were trying to like link it a little bit. So like there's a girl who's psychic in this, which really doesn't factor into anything. And she has a couple of visions where like he pops up and then he's like, "Run away!"
Oh,
that's it.
Yeah, I saw a picture of him with like the eyes or whatever, like silver eyes to things. Okay, yep. Anyways, yeah, I haven't seen it, so and I don't know. I heard, yeah. So I may check out Jeepers Creepers 1 again, but it's not like on the list of things to do. But yeah, all right. Have you seen it, Kent? I'm sure you have.
Yeah, it was more fun just watching you stumble there a lot. So I saw the original Jeepers Creepers on 9/11 because, I was a person that just couldn't handle, like, watching news 24/7 at that point. So, me and Dom went see Jeepers Creepers. And I still have the ticket stub, and it is so faded that you have to get just the right lighting just so you can actually see the date, but you can't even see, like, the name of the movie anymore. But I do still have the stub. And I thought the first one was really good. Like, I don't want to say great, but it was very good. Very, in that 6 to 7, maybe even a little higher than 7 range. Like, it was fun. And then you get this shitload of fuck, to the point that this was on my list at some point. This failed on so many fucking levels of failure, and the weak ass. This is a common thread with a lot of the things that are on the bad list is when they try so hard to tie in the original to this shitty sequel, like Rage, Carrie 2. There's plenty of them, though, that, like, we see this common thread where they're like, well, if we tie it together just a little bit, we can call this a sequel. You can, but it's going to be a piece of shit. And as great as Ray Wise is, he couldn't save this. As great as Justin Long is, he didn't even belong in this. Like, this was just a horrible fucking movie that lacked all the atmosphere that made the first one really good, really fun.
It was so bad. They took 16 years to make another sequel, and that one went almost straight direct to video.
Well, because the director got in legal trouble like the night that they were premiering Jeepers Creepers 3, if I'm not mistaken. So that all fucking blew up. The best thing I can say is that an old Mayfield friend of mine sent me a picture. She works with cows, and she found a cow that is named Jeepers Creepers. And she sent it to me. And that's my positive note about this movie, is that I have a picture of a cow named Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, the whole director thing was kind of why I was stumbling, because I'm like, I just found out a lot of all that stuff about him. So, that's what I'm like.
It's pretty bad, right?
Go watch those movies, but I think of like Roman Polanski or Woody Allen, and then I'm like, but this is Jeepers Creepers. It's not. It's not. Yeah,
it's not
Rosemary's
like
Baby.
Yeah. We weren't looking at it like an A-list director all of a sudden, fucking up. It was like, B-movie director fucking up.
Yeah. Missed opportunity, no doubt.
All right, that's my list. Kent, what you got?
All right, so obviously I did more than I needed to. A few things I just kind of wanted to touch on, like almost subgenres within the sequels. And one of the big things is we need to take a moment to make fun of all but one Stephen King sequel. There's one good Stephen King sequel, and maybe it'll get brought up later. But if you look at all the other Stephen King sequels, Carrie, Children of the Corn, Firestarter Rekindled, Pet Sematary 2, even though it had Furlong and Clancy Brown and Anthony Edwards, like, that movie had good star power, and it still sucked. Like, Stephen King sequels suck. And I want to acknowledge their sucketry.
Pet Sematary 2 is a guilty pleasure, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a guilt. I agree with that. Some of the Children of the Corn sequels are a guilty pleasure, but they're not good. It just is what it is. And then we have this other subgenre of the waiting. I call it the waiting forever disappointments. I'm talking about like the American Werewolf in Paris, which I thought was going to be on your list, Chris, to be perfectly honest.
I forgot a bunch of that. Yeah, that should have been my number one.
Yeah. For me, a movie that wouldn't be on your list is Queen of the Damned, because I didn't like it, and I know you did, but, whatever.
See, it's hard for that one, too, though, because it's the second movie, but it's the third book.
Right. I get it, and yeah, that'll be something else I kind of get on. But even like Strangers Prey at Night took a long time for that sequel, and it was shitty, and it wasted a really good song. Tales from the Hood 2 was trash compared to the original. And then, like, to kind of just go along with what you just said, like, as far as books go, I look at The Thing, and then, like, the newer Thing was the prequel, but I also kind of counted it as, like, a sequel, prequel, whatever, and that was shitty. We waited, like, 30 years for that fucking movie, and it was shit. So, all of those movies deserve a special place. Then we have, like, this subgenre that I'm calling direct-to-video Go Fuck Yourself. And I'm talking about, like, the American Psycho, Joyride, Mirrors, Quarantine, fucking Return to House on Haunted Hill. Fuck that movie, all the just fuck it. And Vacancy. Like, all these movies, they can just go fuck themselves. But there was no expectations, really. So, none of the stuff really made my list. And since we can cross off Jeepers Creepers, I can bump everything up one. So, my number 5, and I think Kevin actually likes this movie, is a movie I just watched, 5 hours ago.
Oh, yes.
Called Cabin Fever 2. Kevin, you like this movie, right? Okay. So, Ty West, dude that did so many other good stuff, X, Pearl, House of the Devil. He directed this, and it just, I had to give it another shot because Kevin and I had talked about this, within the past month or so, and, Kevin spoke highly of it. I'm like, shit, did I miss the mark here? So I rewatched it today. I still feel the same negativity towards it. I just hate how it's shot. I hate the dialogue. I hate the 25-year-olds pretending that they're 17-year-olds. There's just so much that I didn't like. Now, the gross out stuff, okay. There was a little bit over-reliance on, like, what I like to call, like, the squirty blood effect, where it just, like, clearly, like, there's a tube and somebody's squeezing something and it just shoots out. There's an over-reliance on that gimmick, but I'm okay with it. There's a lot of good gross out, but I didn't care much for the animation. it was there. Like it's okay. Like the ending animation was better than the opening animation. It really felt like a waste of Larry Fessenden's time. He was the water truck delivery guy. Like all the people that I kind of liked in it had really, really small roles by and large. Like Ryder Strong had a really small role. Judah Friedlander. At the end, this wasn't the sequel that I wanted from the first one, and I guess that's why it disappointed me. I know some people like it, and there's some gags to it and whatnot. Whatever. This was not what I wanted for a sequel. So that's why it's on my list at number 5.
I mean, when your director fucking doesn't even want to have his name put on it, you can tell something's probably pretty bad.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's his first movie, and he's trying to get his name taken. Yeah, he disowned this film, but he wasn't. So the story is he wasn't in the Directors Guild, so he couldn't get his name taken off of it because he wasn't in the guild. Like they wouldn't take his request. So, yeah. It's a tough spot. Yeah, but you could see little glimmers, like the whole opening sequence with the school bus, or from Ryder Strong to the school bus, and then Giuseppe Andrews, which is the reason why I love this movie, is him as a party cop again. It's like
he carries the movie. He's consistently the best part of the movie.
Yeah, and it would be the thing about why he was so great in the first one was he auditioned for the Ryder Strong part, and Eli Roth took him out of the line and said, "Hey, like we're not going to cast you. Like, would you think about doing this?" And Eli Roth gave him complete freedom to come up with all of that dialogue, like the Dirty Limericks is based on like one of his dad's friends and stuff, and he writes books, and he's an artist himself and writer, and made trauma films basically because when he was making this movie, he made this movie, I think it was Trailer Town, and he showed it to Eli Roth, and Eli Roth hooked him up with Trauma. But yeah, so anyways, Ty West also let him have the same exact freedom. So I think in that's why the movie works for me. And like the way it's shot is so great, but they reshot and re-edited the entire thing. So a lot of it is like he wasn't even, I'm guessing it was the stuff with the kids he wasn't on set for. But then there's little glimmers of like the way it's lit and stuff looks different, and it looks like a really well made movie.
Yes,
you know?
that is
shot on 35 millimeter film, and then it goes from like looking at 35 millimeter film to video, which is with like the kids.
Early on, dude, that felt like a movie that I've been involved in making, and that's not an insult to the stuff that I worked on, but it was very low budget, and I look at the budget for this, and it was a $5 million budget, and I'm like, alright, so I was working on a movie that had like a $5,000 budget, and this had a $5 million, like, there's not much of a quality difference early on. That felt a little silly to me.
Well, the quality went down because the studio wanted to make whatever they thought that movie is. And they reshot it. So, you know, they are spending more money on film at the time, I believe. They were still shooting everything on film. So, like, they're shelling out the bucks, you know? So, to reshoot things, they probably, you know, didn't need to, but, you know, had to market the movie. Yeah, it had to market the movie they wanted to market. So,
the music was good, by the way. I should mention
music's really cool. Yeah. So I stand by it. Giuseppe Andrews rules, and I wish he would come out of hiding and make more movies.
Chris, you see it?
No, I've never seen Cabin Fever 2.
Okay. Well, you now have two very conflicting viewpoints on this.
I might have to see it just to see where I fall between the Kent-Kevin denomination.
Yeah. Okay, so my number 4 movie. I'm realizing that I have one extra movie. Whatever, I don't care. I'm just gonna say the hell with All Hallows Eve 2 and just move right on. Cube 2, Hypercube. Go fuck yourself, Cube. There, like, why? I'm not questioning why the movie was made. The movie had to be made, but why? Why did the cube look so sterile? By and large, why did they have to get so stupidly mathematical? Like, I like math. I'm good with math, and even I'm sitting there like, all right, you guys are trying way too hard to make this like seem smarter than it ever needed to be. With all the shit that they had going on. Sometimes you can just dumb it down and appeal to a better audience, a bigger audience, I should say. The actors, actresses, really a lot of them missed the mark. It wasn't a good time, and realistically, if it wasn't for the ending where you see, like, you know, person get outside of the cube and see that there's, you know, government or military, blah blah blah. Cube 2 actually probably would have been higher on this list, but they gave us that one little tidbit that gave Cube fans something to hold on and hope for later on, and they kind of delivered with Cube 0. All the while, though, fuck this movie. There was a couple of cool scenes, but I like the darker cubes. I actually just watched the Japanese cube, which I figured we'd talk about later, but they went back to the darker, as opposed to this white, vibrant bullshit. So, not a fan. I'm pretty sure Chris has seen Cube 2. I don't know about Kevin, so...
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing really more that needs to be said.
I think I watched Cube 2, but I will say that I never gave it a fair shake, because as much as I liked Cube 1, I just didn't really want to even really rewatch the first Cube. And then I did when I started doing this podcast with you guys. And yeah, and I loved it. So I definitely should go back and give Cube 2, which I believe is on YouTube for free. I wish I had the oomph to like get super obsessive about the terrible sequels that I assume or kind of vaguely remember. So I don't remember anything about Cube 2, but I wish I did, just after finishing my lists, just go on a tangent, but I didn't. So it's on the list of things to do. I do think, I was thinking that maybe Kent would have put this on his terrific list, but I was wrong about that. Do you like any of the other cubes?
I really like Cube 0.
Oh, okay.
It's slow. It's not as fast paced, but they tell so much and they bring up so many ideologies. So yeah, I like it, and it's kind of interesting now knowing what we know about Cube 0 to go and watch this new. I don't know if it's a remake or not, because the characters are all very different. The Japanese Cube that just came out, so I don't know if it should count as a part 4 or remake. I don't know what they're kind of going for, but if you apply the mythos of Cube 0 to this new Cube, there's some stuff to be gathered from it, I guess would be the way to put that.
Japanese one you're talking about?
Yeah, the Japanese one, it's worth a watch. It's probably my third favorite out of the 4 Cube movies, but it's definitely worth a watch. Cube 2's worth a watch, just to be like, it's
shitty, it's like 90 minutes long. So.
The endings,
it
flies by.
Okay, cool.
All right, so my number 3 is a movie I actually watched during the week. Like, the only time I actually put any effort into this during the week, I watched Candyman Farewell to the Flesh while playing Diablo 4, and I wish I just focused on Diablo 4. I knew I didn't like this movie. And a big part of this whole list is, how does a movie stack up to the original movie? Does it, is it a direct sequel, or does it take like the mythos and apply it liberally? All these different things. So, first and foremost, Candyman Farewell to the Flesh takes place in fucking New Orleans. And the original Candyman was in, I don't know if it was Chicago, but it was definitely
Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah, because Cabrini Green was the neighborhood.
Cabrini Green. So we're now down in fucking New Orleans, and we get a little bit more of the backstory, which I do like the backstory. Like, that is one of the more captivating points of Candyman. But the acting's bad. The over-relying on jump scares is staggering. It's really, really bad, to the point that I think by the third or fourth one, let's see, I took notes. 3 jump scares within the first 22 minutes. The 4th jump scare at 25:40. The 5th jump scare at 29:55. And there's a 6th jump scare in the final scene. That's too many jump scares in a movie that's not really that scary to begin with. Like, Candyman's not about jump scares. It's about the fucking ambience and building everything else about it. And, like, it just fucking sucks so bad. And the acting is really, really frustrating. And what little they do add to the backstory, they could have, like, kind of given it to us in, like, 30 seconds and been like, here's 30 seconds. You got your money's worth. You can watch the other 90 minutes, or you can just walk away and be happy. I wish I would have walked away. So, that's how I feel about Candyman Farewell to the Flesh. It disappoints me like very little else does.
Did you ever watch Candyman Day of the Dead?
Yeah.
Because if you watch that, Farewell to the Flesh isn't anywhere near as bad.
Yep. Parts of my soul just keep dying, and that's why I was so trepidatious about the reboot, but they did a really good job on the reboot. So I'm kind of hoping maybe that there's another one coming eventually. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know if this actually. I think it did make it to the theaters, but I don't think it did very well at all in the theaters. So
Yeah.
Tony Todd's magnificent. I'll say that much.
He's got such a cool voice.
His demeanor's cool. Like, he's stoic, but like scary.
Yeah, I don't remember. Farewell to the Flesh, right? That's the one. Yeah, I don't really remember it. What I do,
Yes.
what I remember from the first one, and also I feel like I wouldn't have given this a fair shake. And I think I just always assumed that, like, number 2s specifically, or sequels to horror films, I didn't have a lot of interest in. Up until probably Scream 2 and, like, randomly Pet Sematary 2, but yeah, they were always bad. And even Pet Sematary 2 was, like, so different that I felt at the time that it was so different. I was like 12. That, I don't know. Anyways, what was great about Candyman, the first one, as Kent was talking about the jump scares, was that it was the oh shit moment when they say Candyman 5 times. So you're like, what's about to happen? They said it. And, like, that time in between, because usually it wouldn't be something that happened right away, as I don't remember, at least in the very beginning of Candyman. So,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
a long
And it had a
burn
great payoff.
or slow burn.
And going back and watching Candyman after watching the remake, the requel or whatever, it was, and I loved Candyman as a kid. So I don't know why I wasn't. I don't know. Maybe I saw it and didn't like it, or but I feel like I didn't like it before I even saw it. So, but I should. That's on. Is that on like streaming, or do you just own it? Is Candyman? I should look it up.
Uh,
Oh,
I- actually, I think I have it on disc because I had it burned onto a drive. I don't
it's not on
think
anything.
I own it
I
on
see.
Vudu, so I don't. Yeah, that which I would say is unfortunate for anybody that wanted to look this up, but in some ways you're just saving some time, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah. All right. My number 2, and I'm so surprised that Chris did not have this on his list. To the point that I just gotta ask Chris, did you forget about Sinister 2?
I didn't. As much as I didn't, I don't like Sinister. I don't mind Sinister 2.
No? Okay. I do.
No, the one that you reminded me that would have been my fucking number one if I'd remembered it would have been American Werewolf in Paris. But Sinister 2 was not as good as Sinister 1, but it wasn't anywhere near as bad as people make it out to be.
I'll go with this. I'll say that if I'm saying quality of the original and then how far the sequel drops, the sequel drops so far for me.
Oh yeah, I'll give you that.
Like, I love James Ransone, but there's just bad decision after bad decision made in this movie, and it wasn't like in the fun way that bad decisions are made in horror. This was more like making you groan out loud, like out of frustration and saying, so you're just kind of creating your own problems just to elongate this situation that just didn't need to really exist in the first place type thing. I don't know, I'd been warned that this movie was bad, but I was like, I love Sinister, and I saw James was the star. I thought, nah, this will be okay, and I was going to watch it this weekend, and I didn't want to put myself through it. I was willing to put myself through Book of Shadows, The Rage, but I wasn't going to do that, so I didn't. And I don't know. Maybe it's not as bad as I make it out to be, but I still say that if we're saying quality from the original to the sequel, it's a huge fall for me. So that's my biggest gripe. It wasn't fun either. Like, it wasn't fun. It wasn't scary. It existed, and there's a reason there's no Sinister 3 as of yet.
Yeah. I mean, it's real easy to like. They got rid of too much of the mysticism. Like the first one, the kid's just being fucking silent. You're never really sure, are they complicit with what he's doing? Are they his victims? This one, where they're like, oh no, you need to watch mine. Mine's the best. Yeah, no. Like, the one thing I'll give them is that the videos were fucking probably a little more gory than they were in the first one. Excuse me. But yeah, like, I was proud of what James did in this, but it like you said, Sinister 1 is like probably a top 3 horror movie for me. Sinister 2, I don't think it makes my top 100.
It's incredibly mediocre compared to the greatness that we put Sinister up on this pedestal and then drop down to this sea of mediocrity.
Yeah, so I can understand why you would put it on your list.
Yeah.
And it's not Scott Derrickson, though he wrote the screenplay. right? Sinister 2. He didn't
Yeah,
direct it.
yeah.
so
He
that's-
didn't want to write it, and the studio was like, "Hey, we're going to make it no matter what." So he ended up writing it on a shortened time frame compared to the 3 years that were between the two movies.
Oh, yeah. So he like, yeah. I haven't seen this. I really like Sinister, and I like James Ransone in basically anything he does. So I'll definitely check it out sometime. And the only other thing that I want to add is that the American Werewolf in Paris soundtrack is pretty good.
Yeah, that was on our top soundtracks.
Yeah, the Suicide Machines, even the Fastball song is like the best fastball song I've ever heard. So, yeah.
Dude, Mouth, that version of Mouth that they had in the movie, too, is fucking awesome.
And it worked in those scenes of the movie, too, that part. But anyways, yeah. I've watched it a couple times, and I remember not hating it as a kid. But, yeah, it's even Julie Delpy can't save that movie.
And that's a mouthful. That's a sad
Yeah, she's
mouthful.
great. I love Julie Delpy. Killing Zoe forever. All right.
All right. My number one. I have to ask Chris, if you had to guess what my number one is, what would you say?
Are we including large franchises?
Yes.
Because then I would guess it would probably be Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
There we go. And we've already talked about it ad nauseum, so fuck that movie. Almost killed the damn franchise. Fuck that movie. I don't care. I know we had a long talk about it, so I'm not going to retread over it. I'm saving us some time, but fuck that movie. And that's my list.
I like it. That's my rebuttal.
I haven't rewatched it recently for that podcast we did. It's not anywhere near as bad as like what fucking people make it out to be, but was it good? I appreciate that they tried to do something different.
It almost killed the greatest horror franchise of all time. That
In defense of it, they didn't know what they had at the time. They didn't know what they had at the time. I totally, it's absolutely fitting to be on the on a terrible list, because in that sense of of it being a bad sequel, it is. But there's much worse.
Oh yeah,
much worse for big franchises, anyways. I think, but
I considered. It's weird that a lot of people like the second Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the one with Dennis Hopper, and I find that movie to be fucking dumb as hell. I just can't get behind it. I don't know. That's probably the other really of like the big franchises. Of course, I also kind of want to shit on Predator 2, but I know Chris likes it, and we've talked about fucking Predator 2 so much on this podcast, there wasn't a point for it, but that's another one I personally just can't get up for, I guess. Yeah, but alright. I mean, we can end here.
That sounds good.
All right.
All right, guys, we'll be finishing up the terrible twos here, and we'll be back in a little bit with our terrific twos. See you later.
Bye.
See?